Hey, today I got two questions for you. Number one, do you have an in-ground irrigation system? And the second question is, if you do have an in-ground irrigation system, do you have the same problem that I have, whereby blades of grass grow over your irrigation heads, preventing the distributor from popping up, or they don't necessarily grow over, but they grow around, preventing the water from casting properly, or worst case, a situation I find myself in often, the grass actually does grow over the irrigation heads and you lose them. You don't even know where they are from one season to the next. If that's a problem that you're experiencing, I got a solution for you. Stick around. So in my last video, we talked about the Ratio irrigation controller, which essentially you replace your irrigation controller with this thing, and it's Wi-Fi connected, and it allows you to control it through an app, through a web interface. It uses weather data to determine whether it should irrigate your lawn or not, in addition to a rain sensor if you have one. It can also irrigate your lawn in like bursts. So like if you have clay like I do, it might not run a whole cycle at once. It might break it up over time to prevent water roll off. But all the technology in the world isn't going to help you if your irrigation sprinklers don't pop up or are buried or are leaking underground or are just being blocked. And so I was looking for a solution, and I've kind of handcrafted solutions in the past, but they haven't worked that good. So I was curious to see if anyone had anything good out there that would solve my problem, which I'm sure a lot of people have. And I've had this problem with different properties I've owned. And yeah, somebody actually did, and they're called Sprinkler Buddy. And what makes them really cool and clever in their design is it looks like essentially a dog cone when you attach it to your sprinkler head, and it prevents the blades of grass from growing right up next to your irrigation heads, which is really cool. You know, it actually will push them out to the sides. And this helps a lot in allowing you to locate your sprinkler heads, because mine disappear like twice a season, essentially, because let's be honest, I'm not the best person at taking care of my lawn, but I do try. And, you know, again, it makes no sense to have a great irrigation controller that is doing all this wonderful stuff if the heads aren't responding the way they should. So let's take a quick look at the install so you see what's involved. The actual Sprinkler Buddy is a good flexible plastic. It's UV protected. It has a 7-inch diameter, and it has these markations, these demarcations, 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inch, that you'll need to cut up and along to the diameter of the sprinkler head you're going to fit this thing on. And that's important because if you cut it too large, then weeds will grow up against the sprinkler head. That just means you have to measure the diameter of your sprinkler head and make sure that you're cutting to the appropriate line. Not a big deal, easy to do. In my case, I'm trying to fit this to a 2-inch diameter sprinkler head, so I'm cutting to the 2-inch line as you see here. Next, you'll need to force this thing on from the bottom through those cuts and pull it all the way up to the collar. Now, a good snug fit is what you want, again, because that's going to prevent the grass from growing between the Sprinkler Buddy and your irrigation head. So that's what you're going for right there. All right, so in my case, I'm going to replace this destroyed irrigation head that my landscaper was so nice enough to essentially pulverize during last season's aeration and reseeding. You're going to have to dig up your sprinkler head, and as you can see, I have my PVC tubing that I was trying to use as a keep out for the grass. And, you know, it worked okay, but not so good because, you know, grass seeds and grass would grow in between. You're also going to want to make a mental note probably before you even do this project as to, especially if you're replacing your heads, as to the diameter of the actual fitting. Mine happens to be 3/4 of an inch, but I think I bought 1/2-inch ones at Home Depot originally, and I had to go back and actually, exchange them for 3/4 of an inch. So lesson learned, save yourself a trip, learn from my mistakes. All right, also be very, very careful of when you remove your irrigation head and when you replace it that you don't get sediment or dirt in your line, because that's going to wreak all sorts of havoc with your system. For those of you who have never messed with or dug up your irrigation system and might be a little intimidated by the process, I want to give you a little tip here. This is the point, by the way, you can do it, it's not that hard, but this is the point where you are going to set the spray pattern, right? Your irrigation head, if it's a rotor like this one, is going to spray from left to right. Well, the left side is locked in, and it depends on, and that point is determined by how you screw the actual irrigation head into the ground. So you're going to obviously tighten it as much as possible, but there's going to be a point where you might have to loosen it just to get that left-hand side locked into where you want the spray head to stop when it swings left. And then the right is controlled by the screw in the back here. You'll stick a screwdriver in there, a nice thin screwdriver, and you can increase it by dialing it to the right, or decreasing the right-hand spray pattern by dialing it to the left. Just keep that in mind. That's really one of the major controls that you're going to want to fix and set up right now at this point, because if you don't set your left-hand side locking point, it's going to be a little more complicated later once you've put the dirt back in. All right, so I have my irrigation head planted, and I'm going to let nature take its course. And over time, with some rain and settling, the sprinkler head will drop into the ground a bit, and the actual sprinkler buddy won't protrude as much. Ideally, you want to get that as close to the ground as possible so you don't trip over it or get it caught or snagged in anything. But it looks good. Anyway, that's the Sprinkler Buddy. I think it's a pretty cool product. I think it's well made, well designed. I can't imagine a better design, actually. I love the material that they used. It's flexible. It doesn't look like it's going to dry out or become brittle or crack over time. Anyway, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description below just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, and you can get more information about it. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll see you next time.